Hi, this is Steve at my shop in Bellevue, Nebraska. This is the first assignment in Lesson 1 for the Shopsmith Mark 47520 self-study course. Now, this check of alignment procedure is going to be the same regardless of which machine you have. I happen to have a Mark 4 here, but if you have a Mark 7 or a 520S or a Mark 5 520, any of those, this check alignment process is going to be exactly identical. So as you notice here, we've got set up the machine unplugged, no power whatsoever. We've got just the main table. We've got a sanding disc with absolutely clean with no sandpaper on it. I have an engineer's square. You can use a combination square if you want. 5/32 Allen wrench and a 1/2 inch open end box wrench if you need to do any adjustments. Now, normally anytime I'm using the machine, you want to have your jewelry off, the watch off. I'm not going to be turning on any machinery right now, so that's why you're seating the watch on in this particular segment. But any of the segments where a machine is being on, you will hopefully not see me be wearing a watch or any other jewelry or anything. So the first thing we want to do is we want to set up the table, and we want to check to make sure that when it's at 0 degrees, meaning the table is flat like it is, that it is exactly going to be square to the blade or a disc that we have on here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our disc and we're going to mount that on the spindle here. And we want this Allen wrench to be in line with here, which is the flat on the arbor. And we will tighten that. Now you'll notice yours will not have this tape on here yet, but we'll get to that here in a minute. All right, so what we want to do is we want to find, first of all, the high spot on this particular disc. And the reason we want to do that is because once we find the high spot, then, for example, if this is our high spot, then perpendicular to that should be perfectly flat and straight. So that's where we want to find that. So to do that, we're going to take our Allen wrench, we're going to slide the carriage over after unlocking the carriage lock. Get that fairly close, within an inch, lock the carriage. I'm going to take this and I want to move it over till it's touching the blade. Rest my hand there, and I want to, now you can hear it rubbing against the disc there. And as I turn it all the way around, now it's not touching the disc. And I keep turning around, and back to our starting point, and it's touching. So that's the high spot. On your disc, when you find that, you're going to take your masking tape and do it from that high spot to the center, and that will mark where the high spot is. So after that step's done, now we're going to check our 0 degree setting with the square. And how we'll do that is we want to position the tape here so it's exactly horizontal. We're going to move our engineer square over flat on the table, and we want to have the table light here just slightly above the center of the disc. All right, there should be good. Rest that against the disc, and if it's aligned correctly, that is exactly 0 degrees, that blade of the square will touch the disc all the way down, which this one is. So we don't have to do any adjustment whatsoever on this one. And if we did have to do some adjustment, that's going to be on the stop bolts, which is on the underside here, which I'm going to show you shortly in another segment that you'll see, where I show you where those are to adjust those. So now that we have that one, now the next thing I want to do is I want to take the table and I want to check the 90 degree stop. The way I do that is I loosen the trunnion lock here, lift that up, and rotate it all the way down. So it's all the way to there. And we lock our trunnion lock back here. Now we're going to unlock the carriage, slide it over within about an inch of the disc, lock the carriage. Now we're going to loosen the quill lock, advance that disc until it here. I don't think I have that table all the way down. Let's check this again. I think I'm going to raise the table up a little bit. I think it's running into the way tubes there. All right, now let's do it. There we go. Now it's all the way down. All right, now bring that back over. Lock the carriage. Now, we want to check at the top up here and the bottom down here, that disc should be touching here and here the table. If it is, then that 90-degree stop for the table is exactly correct. If it's not, then you're going to have to adjust it on the underside, and I'll show you where those set screws are right now. Slide this back, and we'll have to do that from this side of the table over here to see it. I'm going to show you. So these two down here, that's your 90-degree stops, and this one up here is for the 0 degree. That's where the plunger rests against that when we have it. When we put it up on the horizontal, you want to push that plunger in, push in on this side, and lock it in place. All right, so lastly now we want to make one other check, and that's going to check to make sure that the table is level going in this direction. We'll raise that table up just a little bit. Put it back to the 90. Lock my trunnion lock in here. Now I want to rotate this so that the tape is now up. And again, it should be touching here and here. If for some reason that is not touching, that should have already been done at the factory by Shopsmith. So if you does not match up here, you need to contact Shopsmith, and they will either need to rework it or send you some shims to fix that. But 90% of the time plus, that's perfect right from the factory. These particular set of checks, you should not have to do again. It should be a once-in-a-lifetime thing. All right, so the very last one now we're going to check now is we want to make sure that the cable slots are, these slots are parallel with this. And when this was machined at the factory, these slots here were machined exactly parallel to the edge of the table. So that's what we'll use as our reference point. So we're going to bring this over within just a little bit of the table, lock the carriage lock. Again, I want to put this just above the center, approximately, about right there. And now we will advance the quill until that's touching the table. And the table should be touching here and here both. If they're touching both spots, then this table is exactly parallel with the disc and with the plane of a blade or anything else that we're going to be cutting here. If for some reason yours is not, then you'll need to loosen the 4 trunnion bolts underneath and to adjust the table, which it can adjust this way or that way. that trunnion lock down. So I did that. Okay. So I'll show you where those bolts are on the underside for the adjusting the trunnion. So let's raise this table up. So first of all, I'm going to take and put this 45 this way. So two of them are here and here, which you have to access with the table tilted 45 to the left. The other two are located here and here, which you can access. You can actually access those when the table is level from underneath, or you can rotate it here. So that's where you would have to access those. Okay, so now I think we've finished doing our 90-degree table stop. Here we're looking at the underside of the table, the trunnion, and I want to show you where some of the things are on the underside here. First, I'm going to do a close-up of your scale. You can see there where we have the 5, the 0, and the 5. We want to make sure that that is lined up. We want to make sure. Let me show you here. I want to make sure that the 0 line here lines up with the whatever line you're going to do up here. So when we're setting this for horizontal, I'm going to take this trunnion lock here. I'm going to loosen it. This is the pin here, right here we were talking about. When we put it on horizontal position, I'm going to hold that pin in and then lock it in place. So if that's adjusted correctly, the zeros lines up there. Now the stop for that here is found back here. I'm going to show you that in a second here. I'm going to rotate this back down to here, and we're just going to move the camera around to where you can see that stop over here where my finger is. You see that stop there? That bolt? Yeah, that's the stop for this 0 degree that the pin goes against, and that's what you'll adjust for doing that. Now, this bolt down here and this one over here, those are the stops for the 90 degree. That's when I put the table back. Might want to put that back to 1 times instead of double on the. So when I have it up like this, those two down there are the stops for up in the 90 degree position. So I want to show you that here in this particular segment, which we're going to end right here. Now we're going to align the upper saw guard with riving knife with the lower saw guard and the blade. And to do that, we'll need to first, we're going to remove our disc. We won't need that. And now we'll put the lower saw guard on. Now before I put that on, I want to show you this screw right here. This screw on the back side, that is the adjustment screw for the alignment of the riving knife. So if it's out of alignment, that is the screw that you'll need to adjust one way or the other. So let's put this on, tighten it up with our 5/32 Allen wrench. And of course this slot here should be in line with this. If you do that like that, then this here is going to be parallel with the table. All right, now we're going to take our riving knife and upper saw guard. I'm going to loosen this and put the right down that slot. Push that down. Push that all the way. Now I'm going to put my blade on. Now you can put the blade on first and then put this on, or you can put in the order that I did. It doesn't matter which order you do it. Right now we're going to take this dust collector chute, put it all the way out so we can get our blade in here. Now, you saw me jump there. These teeth are super sharp. So what happens when I grabbed it, it went right into the palm of my hand. So either wear gloves when you're doing this, or do it with the fingers out here so you don't cut yourself, because those teeth are really sharp. Put that on. Again, we will align the Allen screw here with that. Tighten it down. And there we are. Now the alignment we want to have, we're going to use a straight edge here to do this. Again, I'm going to make sure that this is going between the teeth, not on the teeth. And this is touching the body of the blade, and it's right at line with the riving knife there. And it'll be that way on both sides. That's the way you want to have it. If it is not, then you're going to have to take this off and adjust that adjusting screw that I just showed you before we put this on. Now we're going to put the table down on top of this after I take off the upper saw guard. And I'll loosen the carriage lock, slide this over as far as it goes. Actually, we want to put our chute in first. Okay. And slide this over. Lock the carriage lock. I'm going to lower this. Let the blade come up through. Now I'll put the riving knife back in. And I'll tighten that knob down there. And again, it should, let's lower this down, table down. With our straight edge here, making sure I go between the teeth. See, it's lined up right with the riving knife there, and on this side, same thing. All right. So now we've got the upper riving knife aligned properly. The next step we're going to go to is we're going to check the fence alignment. To align the fence, you want to have this edge of the fence completely in line with this edge of the right slot that's in the table. And to do that, we're going to take the fence and you want to push forward on it against the table, slide the fence over, use your finger here. You'll feel right here when it's fence and the edge of the slot is flush, and then we're going to just start to lock that lower one. About halfway is good enough. And it should be flush all the way along, and this one is. If for some reason yours is not flush all the way along, you're going to have to make an adjustment. And these 4 screws in the top that you'll loosen and then adjust the fence with the 5/32 wrench. Instructions are given in your manual, but that's how you'll align that fence. So, lastly, and now this is something that's not in the written instructions, but I want to include that here, and that is before we use it, we want to wax the table. Now for waxing the table, you're going to use some paste wax. The Min Wax, that's readily available. Shopsmith sells it. You can also get it at any of the big box stores. And we want to wax the complete top of the table and both sides of our fence. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. First we'll take the fence off. I'm just going to set it right down there for now. And since this is a new table, it's never been waxed before, I'm going to wax all of the surface of the table. You want to get all of the surface. You want to get down in here to miter slot. Even though we won't be using that in lesson 1, lesson 2 you will be with the miter gauge. You want that to slide smoothly in there. Now actually this particular step we're doing here is actually one of the regular maintenance items on your machine. You should be doing about every 10 hours of machine use. That's stop there. And to protect myself, I'm going to raise this table so that blade is not so exposed. To there. Okay. So I want to do the insert also. And I'll go ahead and we'll do the rails as well, And then lastly, I'm going to do both sides of this fence. Okay. Now lastly, we'll buff this out. Now, do not forget to buff it out. If you forget to buff it out, this paste wax will just act like a magnet for dust, and all the dust will stick to it, and you'll defeat the whole purpose. So you want to buff this out with a different rag. And we'll do our fence. Put that on there. Set that on there. And that finishes our check and align the saw. And so now you're ready to start using it. See you on the next one.